Hello, I'm Samantha Anderson, Superintendent, or I'm Samantha Anderson, Director of Communications for Newton Public Schools, and I'm here with the Superintendent, Dr. Deb Hamm, and we're here to just answer any questions you may have. Now, go ahead and leave them in the comments section, and I will like them when we get to them. That'll kind of keep us organized. If and we'll kind of get started with just a brief explanation of what's going on. First of all, could you just let us know why we're talking to you digitally?
Well, the reason that you're talking to me digitally is because over spring break, my husband and I had plans to travel to California, and we had headed out prior to any travel concerns. And by the time we came back, we left California on Monday. We were already into a self-quarantine issue because we had traveled to a state with a high case load of coronavirus. So anyway, I'm at home, and although I'm suffering from a cold, and yes, I've talked to my doctor, I am doing quite well and working from my home office for the next 14, well, no, only 12 more days.
All right. Kenda Ann says, hello, ladies. Hello, Kenda Ann. Thank you for watching. Now, can you explain where we're at? People have been talking a lot about continuous learning. Will you let us know what that is?
All right. On Wednesday, very late, or actually early Thursday morning, Kansas State Department of Education Special Task Force established a link so that people can go out and take a look at what they have put together. Our charge as educators in the state of Kansas is to provide continuous learning for students even though our buildings are closed. And so for the last 2 days, our district has been working very hard with a small number of people, and we will broaden that next week to include a lot more and include our teaching staff next week. But we're working on our plans for what that will look like for students enrolled in USB 373.
All right, we're getting so many hellos. Joe Solomon says hi. City East Summer says hello. Phyllis Nellen says hello. And Tracy Wakefield Hoagland says hello, y'all. So hello to all of you. We love the hellos. Does anybody have any questions to start out with? If not, we can kind of go through some of the ones we've been getting a lot, and so some more people join. One question I've gotten a lot from a lot of parents is, what about our kids' stuff that's at school? Can you tell us what we're doing about that?
We know that that's a very big concern, and we have to follow state guidelines as well as our local health department guidelines. So we are setting up a schedule for that to occur because we need to have teachers ready to teach virtually a week from Monday. We are going to start with our teaching staff to make sure that they have what they need to have at home in order to be able to provide instruction. So next week, starting on Tuesday, staff will be allowed to come into the building, but only at a scheduled time. So they will be notified on Monday of their scheduled time to come into the building to pick up their things. So we're working with that. We also know that we have students and parents who are concerned about medications. So our nurses are working on a schedule for getting medications back to parents and students that we have currently in our buildings. So that will be coming. That will be coming next week. All other pickups for students are likely not to start until very late next week or the week of March 30th before we can get students in. And again, we have to live by the guidelines of only 10 people, and that means that it can only be about 9 students, or if you divide that in half, a student and a parent, depending on who's coming in, it's going to take us a bit to get all of our students through the building.
All right. Allie Ashleman asks, if there's no standardized testing, what will this look like for grade advancement?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, we don't use standardized testing to determine grade advancement anyway. So if you are a 6th grade student and you take state assessments, that is not the determining factor in whether or not you advance to 7th grade. What is a determining factor is the work that you produce for your 6th grade teacher. So we need to make sure that our students are meeting the competencies, and we will do that through the work that is designed by our teachers, understanding that it's going to be very different than what students would experience in school.
All right, kind of along those same lines, Becca and Justin asked, will all students automatically move on to the next grade?
Well, I can't say that because we have some students that, depending on where they are right now, might not be doing that. That will be a decision that the building principal and the teachers and the parents will make moving forward.
Okay. Haley Weiberg asks about our plans for graduation as well as the return of books.
The return of, I don't know if she's talking about library books.
Oh, yeah. Haley, if you could clarify, we will answer that question. But for now, the plans for graduation, what are those?
The plans for graduation will be, we will be issuing diplomas to seniors who have completed the required courses and required credits as outlined in board policies. So for our seniors, currently that is 24 credit hours, and they will need to have completed those in order to receive their diploma.
All right. Debbie Miles asks, what will the paras and special ed, physical ed be doing? So special education, physical education.
Okay, we don't know the answer to that yet. What I can tell you is that special education law has not changed. We will not be providing services to students in this upcoming week as outlined by the Commissioner of Education. It will be March 30th before we resume any kind of services, and we will be working on that this next week to set that out and what that's going to look like.
All right. If we pay fees for lost or stolen Chromebooks, will we be able to get a new one issued in order to finish the school year at home?
Yes, and we are working on that right now.
All right. What is our plan for school lunches?
That I can say we will be serving starting on Monday. I don't have the times yet. That will come out in an email and text message and voice message through our system. But we will be doing both breakfast and lunch daily. It sounds like we will be doing lunch and then the breakfast for the next day at the same time, so that parents don't have to make 2 trips to the school to pick up those meals. That will be available to any child to age 18, and so the child would need to be present in order to pick that up. That will be at all sites except Chisholm and Walton right now, and we're working on the solution to Walton. We just don't have it just yet. So if people be a little bit patient, we can let you know the actual details. But you can plan on picking up breakfast and lunch starting on Monday.
Right, and we kind of touched on this. That we had a question: will our kiddos get held back? Our goal is to get them to meet the requirements to move forward.
Correct. We understand that not all students progress through an educational sequence at the same time and the same rate. So we already have students that some students are ahead of where they need to be, and some aren't quite there yet. And then they start the next year with the idea that we will work to get them the information or the skill set that they need to have to be successful. So we will continue with that philosophy, looking at what is in the best interest of the student to be able to continue on. Our best option is to keep kids engaged in education from now on through the next 8 weeks, 9 weeks, because we already know what happens with summer slide when kids aren't engaged in reading regularly, doing math regularly. We already see a kind of a backslide, if you will, for students. So we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to keep kids engaged in educational endeavors over the next several weeks.
All right. What are we doing for special education? That's still in the works, right?
Right. I know that's everybody's question. Our special education teachers are really concerned about this, and we are working very hard with the State Department to find out how best to do this. But again, we need to make sure that we're in compliance with the state and Center for Disease Control guidelines that we have to follow. So we know that if big if, students were to come back into the buildings, we would need to keep those ratios of student to teacher very small in a confined area. So let's just say it would be 9 students and a teacher, or it would be 2 para-educators, a teacher, that would be 3, and so the maximum number of students would be 7. So we have a lot of details to work out, and our teachers will be working with the special education department starting on Monday to figure all of those things out, and they will be in contact with the parents and students on their caseload.
All right. How do we turn in our school library books?
Our media specialists have already been working on that and trying to decide on the best way to do that. One possibility I know that they've visited about is just having a drop-off point where the books would be dropped off and then would be reshelved at some point. What I would ask is that parents and students make sure they find those books, and when they come into the building to pick up their own things, they could drop those library books off at a designated spot. So we will be sending out that information as soon as it's decided.
Okay. After the press conference earlier today, it appears as though the education plan for Wichita is optional work for students. Is that the plan in Newton as well?
Well, I didn't watch the press conference, so I can't address that. Certainly, I would like to say that education in my eyes is never optional, and I would hope that we can get as many students as we can. Again, decisions about whether or not students progress to the next grade, meet the graduation requirements, all of those kinds of things are subject to a local decision. So part of these decisions will be made by the Board of Education based on recommendations that come from our teaching staff. But certainly the kids are encouraged, put it that way at this point, and parents are encouraged to make sure that their students are engaged in learning.
Will driver's ed information be sent out since that meeting she assumes will be canceled?
Yes, actually, driver's education teachers are also working on this. They will go ahead and have that meeting, but that meeting will be virtual, which means it'll be a platform similar to what we're doing now, where we can share the information virtually. We are looking at ways to be able to record that, so if it happens at an inconvenient time, the information is still available. Driver's education is not scheduled to start till June, and our order, the current order from the governor, ends at the end of May. So right now we're planning to move forward. That will depend, of course, on the health of our state.
All right. One person's been told that it's not mandatory to participate in virtual school, and they want to know if this is true, and will there be any point in time that they will need to answer physically or pick up paper packets?
Well, again, if a student is not participating or cannot participate that way for a variety of reasons, we will be looking at, and our teaching staff isn't back yet, they come back on Monday, but we will be looking at packet kinds of materials to put together. We also know that some students will need to have that anyway, because that's the best way to practice is paper pencil. So I'm sure that there will be a variety of materials, and we will either be mailing those out or asking parents to pick them up. Those decisions haven't been made yet.
Okay. Michael Miles wanted to let us know he is watching. Are seniors going to finish all courses or just required courses for graduation?
What we'll be looking at there will be the number of credit hours students have. So it's going to be based on the credit hours, not on whether or not something is an elective. Right now, certain electives are required, such as financial literacy, which is a required course. So I can't just say it's only going to be core classes or not, because it depends on the student and the credits they already have accumulated.
All right. The books that Haley was talking about she was wondering about class books. What should we do about those?
Oh, same thing. If you're not going to need them, now don't return them yet, because you don't know if you're going to need them or not. If you're not going to need them, then we will collect them when you come back into the building to collect your other personal items.
And then is it possible to review graduation at a later month?
That is a decision that will be made at a future time. Certainly the difficulty in graduation has to do a lot with the other things that aren't just the facility or whether or not we can gather, but announcements, all of those kinds of things, they've already been ordered and printed and those kinds of things. So that part is more difficult. But is it possible to have, like, let's say, a graduation ceremony in June? I think it would be possible if that's the decision that is made by the high school staff and others. But understanding that the school year for teaching staff ends and administration ends earlier than June. So.
Mark Shook says the state's guidance says consider to gather family input. Oh, it went away. 1 second. It said consider gathering family input before making decisions on the learning style. He wanted to know how we were planning on doing that.
Well, again, our staff, the majority of our staff comes back on Monday, and so I'm certain that'll be a piece that will be considered in our very first meeting on Monday morning. But we do have a number of parents that are also teachers and employees of the district. So we'll consider that, and we'll consider how else to involve others in the community while still maintaining the group limitations that we have.
Someone asked, we kind of touched on it, but what will paras be doing?
Well, at some point in time, the paras will be back to work working with kids in some way. We just don't know what that is, or working for kids. So for some of our staff, that might mean putting together packets for other staff members. It might be working one-on-one. We just don't know what that looks like just yet.
Andrea Fiedler said that it doesn't answer the graduation question. They want to know if there's going to be a proposed ceremony date in the future. We can't tell you that. We don't know what's going to happen with the coronavirus. We don't know a lot of things. I don't think there's a possibility that we could do that. I mean, if the CDC guidelines remain or stricken, then there's no way we'd be able to do a typical graduation safely, where everybody would be safe.
Correct.
So
everything would have to be lifted at this point, and we don't know when that's going to occur. So we can't answer whether or not we would schedule one for a future date.
Yeah, because if we chose one date and it was the day before it was lifted, then we wouldn't be able to do it then. So we have to kind of take our time and plan. Do we get the school supplies homework? So I think maybe how do we get them? How would we get them to them? Maybe they would probably pick them up when they picked everything else up, right?
Right, and we're working on that now. What's that going to look like? Does that mean that we mail packets to kids? As far as school supplies, the school supplies that are personal property, students will be allowed and parents will be allowed to come and pick those up, just like they would for the end of the school year when we typically send those things home. So that will probably be not this week, but the next week. Not this coming week, but the next week. So March 30th.
I think I saw someone ask pick up where. We're figuring that out. It will probably be at the school, possibly, but we don't know for sure.
Correct. We've tossed around several ideas, actually, from having our own staff put all of the personal items, let's say in a student's desk, in a bag, and then having parents pick those up at the curb. Those kinds of things. We've talked about a lot of different ideas, but we haven't settled on what's going to be most manageable and what's going to be the safest for both staff and parents in picking that stuff up. So,
and then again, with IEPs and special education, we are still working on that and figuring that out. Oh, this is a good question. If a family has kids at more than one school, can they pick up all the lunches at the one location instead of going to all the different schools?
Yes, they can. So if you have school age children in 4 buildings, you just need to go to one building, the one that's most convenient, closest to your home, and pick up the meals for all of your children at that location.
Okay. You guys are asking questions faster than I can keep up. You're going faster than Facebook can keep up. Haley, food for your kids will be at the different schools, except for maybe Chisholm. They may go to Slate Creek. Is that right?
Correct.
Because they share a parking lot. Mm-hmm. How will VOTEC classes be handled?
That's another area that we're looking at. We have some classes that will continue with very small student-to-teacher ratio, again, so that we can keep the social distancing and the numbers to meet CDC guidelines. So we will be sending out more information about that in the future. Our CTE teachers have been working with Hutchinson Community College to determine how to move forward with those classes.
Okay. What about parents in the Walton area who cannot afford internet?
We are working on solutions for that issue also. And so stay tuned. We have several vendors that we're working with and looking at different options for parents.
Okay. What about preschoolers?
That, again, is a question that I don't have a good answer for, except that we do know that we need to continue to provide services, and we want to continue to provide services for those students. We're not exactly sure what that's going to look like yet. Our staff is amazing at Cooper Early Childhood Center, and I know that when they come back next week, they will put together plans that will benefit students.
And then are bus drivers going to be used in this time?
Yes, but we don't know how yet. We have considered different things. So, for instance, students that are on a rural bus route, for example, that might not be able to come in to pick up lunches, we can have our drivers drive meals out. So we're considering different things that we can have that parents might need support for that we don't typically support, but we can during this time.
What if teachers or employees aren't comfortable meeting face-to-face during the pandemic?
Well, I understand that concern, and it's a concern I think that we are all faced with. And at this time, there would be very few teaching staff that I think would be working face-to-face with students. It'll be a very small number, and we definitely will take the teachers' feelings into consideration and probably reassign or do some other things in that way to be able to meet the teachers' needs as well as the students' needs.
Will paper resources be available for kindergartners, and when will teachers be reaching out? When do we think that'll happen?
We are going to begin asking our staff to reach back out to parents next week. That's their planning week, and they'll be planning for that. And one of the very first things that we would like to ask our staff to do is to reach out to their kids and to the parents of their kids and build that sense of relationship again, and let them know that we're thinking of them and are concerned, and that we are working on the plans for helping them to continue their education.
Will computers and laptops be provided? What about those without internet? We touched on the internet, but can you explain our computer and laptop situation?
Right, the computers will be provided and or a device as the teaching staff decides are appropriate for the student. We have purchased, and again, we were already this way. We're very fortunate in that as a district, we have been one-to-one for a little bit now. And so while students in kindergarten through 6th grade do not take devices home currently, we have devices for each child that they use at school. So we are working on a plan for students to have access to those, to be able to take them home, and we'll let that information will become available as soon as we have all the details worked out for that.
Okay. Is there a date set for school to be continued, and will the last day of school be the same, or will it have to be extended?
We have no plans to extend the school year at this time.
Okay.
Could that change? I suppose so, but at this time, no plan to extend. We are planning to resume educational opportunities for kids in that continuous learning model on March 30th for at least some children. I can't say that it's going to be all kids on March 30th because a lot will depend on what our teachers put together this next week. But that week we will begin instruction again.
We had someone ask if they could get us in touch with them for a meeting next week. Send us a private message on that, and I'll get back to you. Will children have will we have to have the children online at a certain time every day, or will it be pre-recorded? Do we know how that'll work yet?
No, I think it could be both. I think what we're going to ask teachers to consider is having like office hours where they are available at a certain time, and then what they want the students to work on is available at a certain time. But I can't even really guarantee that. Those are the current thoughts that are out there, and as our teachers come back, they will decide that. But no, it's not going to be like school starts at 8:10 and goes till 3:15. It will not be that at all. In fact, the state has given us very clear guidelines about the age of students and how much time they should be on a device and those kinds of things that will be a part of our planning next week.
Okay, and I think that answers your question, Katie Murphy. She wanted to know if they were normal school hours or if it would be a time that works for them. It's going to be kind of a time that works for the teacher and the students, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oops.
And it will be different by grade level too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then how do we get spring school pictures, class pictures, or yearbooks? Do we know that yet?
No, but we do know that we will get them to you. We don't know how yet, whether you'll be asked to pick them up or whether we will mail them, exactly how that will happen, but we will make sure that those things are delivered.
What about structured learning students? Are we doing anything for them? Or is that part of the planning period next week?
Again, that it will be part of the plan that will be put together for those students. Yes.
Haley, I think we speech classes that we would probably just do that online, and we've explained school supplies, and we'll probably explain online and paper. Haley, if we didn't answer all your questions, just leave a new one. If a child is prone to respiratory problems, are they required to attend the groups at school? We're not even sure if we're having groups at school, right?
Right, and I would say at this time it's highly unlikely, except for a very small population of students, CTE students, that have to be doing welding in the welding shop, or I really don't even know what those specialized groups would be, but it's going to be a very, very small number of students, and parents always can choose to keep them at home.
Okay. My daughter is taking some electives and she needs them to graduate. She was wondering how things like graphic design or cooking might work. Will she not be able to graduate because of that?
I'm thinking graphic design, that shouldn't be an issue. That should be able to be finished, my assumption. Okay, that's me assuming. I'm not sure I'm accurate, but the teachers certainly will be able to tell you. As far as the cooking class, that would be a CTE class that the teachers and the CTE director will be looking at to see what we need to do there to get kids to graduation.
And then if there's not graduation, will there be refunds for gowns? That's a Justin's question.
Correct. Right? That would be a Justin's question. And I know that the high school administration has been working on that, so I would say more information will be coming.
I think we need to clarify, there's a senior that's feeling frustrated. You will get your diploma, and they want to know, why would it not be possible to review for a later date for graduation? That is still a possibility, is that right?
It is still a possibility, but at this time, with what we are currently working with, we cannot schedule anything because we don't know what the group number will be that will be allowed to congregate in one place. When we do a graduation, I'm guessing there's close to 4,000 to 5,000 people at a graduation. So it would far exceed any number that's currently published for us to keep our numbers below.
And then what about AP tests?
We are working on a response for that. We still did not have an answer from AP, as far as I know, as of yesterday, and I didn't hear anything today.
When will we get a clear plan on the actual format for the kids, the educational format?
I would say that's going to come next week for you. The guidelines that we're using are the state continuous learning information model that was set forth by the state, and we could go ahead and post that, Sam, online if you want.
I'll put it in after this. Once we end the live, I'll put it in the description box so you all can look at that.
And that's a 76-page document, and it would give you an outline of what it could look like.
All right. We answered that question. And then one parent wants to know about the mother and son Lego night. Will there be refunds? She's assuming it's canceled.
Yes, I would say that if it is scheduled between now and the end of May, it's canceled. And we will refund money on that. I just can't give you an exact timeline, but it will be coming.
How will the ACT retake be done? Do you know that? Or that info come from the College Board?
Right, it will come from the College Board. The last I heard was we were supposed to move forward with that, but that again is subject to change, and we will have to follow the guidelines. So if we are to go ahead with it, then we would have students sitting 6 feet apart. There would not be more than 10 people in a room, those kinds of things. And we would have to have our local health department okay on our plan.
And then when will seniors know if they have enough credits to graduate?
We are working on that now, pulling the data for all of our seniors so that our staff has that to work with next week.
And
so very
Oh, sorry. And are we going to charge 5th and 6th graders tech fees to take the Chromebooks home?
I don't believe so, no.
Will students entering National Honor Society still be included into National Honor Society? I would guess so.
I would guess so. You've met all the requirements for doing so, so I don't see why you wouldn't. I think the thing that probably, unfortunately, won't happen will be a recognition of that, where your family and friends get to come and be a part of that. But maybe we could do something at the beginning of next year.
And would starting school in the summer be an option? That's not what the state lined out for us, is it?
That is not what the state lined out for us. And right now, we could have like a summer school program. The difficulty we always get into with summer events is all of the things that families normally have children doing during the summer, from baseball and softball and swimming classes and trips with family and all of those kinds of things. Although our lives are very different now than they were a week ago, we just don't know what will happen in June. So as we move forward, we're keeping all kind of options on the table, if you will, but I would say that's not a plan right now.
Someone asked if they could return their library books when they come in for breakfast or lunch. We probably would want them to wait on it. You don't want our food workers who are serving the food taking things, I'm guessing.
Correct. And we don't have a plan established for what that's going to look like. So if people would just wait, hold on to those books for a couple more days, we'll get information out to you about returning your library books.
Will food be distributed at Cooper? Do we know that?
That's a very good question. I think so, because we have food there, but it will be a part of the phone message that you get that tells you where to pick that up. So if you don't hear Cooper, don't go to Cooper. Go somewhere else to pick it up. So that would be probably the closest schools then would be Slate Creek and Santa Fe would be the two closest schools to Cooper.
Someone asked if we could repeat how it's going to work online, or at least what we know now.
Well, what we know right now, and again, this is me making some assumptions, having not had our staff yet, our teaching staff working on this. But I am assuming that 5th and 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade would continue to be able to utilize the Summit platform and continue working in there. Now, it will be different than what they've experienced so far, would be my guess. At the high school level, when teachers have determined what the assignments will be and how that's going to work for each class, our plan at this time is to use Canvas as our learning platform. Excuse me.
You're all choked up about the end of the school, well, the end of the buildings in the school.
So we already have all of that in place. Excuse me, too much talking today. We have that already in place. And then for the primary kids, I believe what I understood today is that our chosen platform will be Seesaw. Most of our elementary kids, kindergarten through 4th grade, are used to using that platform and have done so already. So that's kind of where we're at with that, as far as the 3 different platforms we'll be using.
Joe Wharton wants to let us know they're watching. Hello, Joe. As a SPED teacher, a separate question, as a SPED teacher with a small caseload, would I be allowed to personally pick up or drop off work materials at the students' houses? She says she will sanitize materials and leave them on the porch.
Yes, I think that we'll be accepting whatever and however to best meet the needs of our students. So we can utilize anyone's help in being able to do that, yes.
And then they wanted to know, we touched on this already, do we have to do work for elective classes? Yes, there will be some sort of work for those classes. When is online school going to start? The goal is March 30th. I think we've covered that. Will speech therapy through Cooper continue?
Yes, again, special education requirements require that we continue providing services to our students. What we don't know is when and where and what that's going to look like yet. Our staff will be back and they will begin working right away on figuring those things out.
What about parents who can't get to school to get their lunches?
Again, what I would ask is that you reach out with a private message and let us know, or call the office on Monday and let us know, and we will see what we can do to help you.
Does the school calendar remain the same, such as do we not serve meals on Good Friday and any other day students were originally supposed to be out?
Again, if school is scheduled to be out, then that would be a non-scheduled day, so we would not normally provide meals on those days.
What about if parents are disabled and have difficulties getting around? Would there be resources to help get items from school? Again, I think that's one where you'd want to message us or email us at info@usd373.org or just call on Monday and we can talk you through that.
Yes. And I would say that I think we will do whatever we can to help our families get their personal items back and to provide meals to students. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
What about if how will distribution go about for devices, and what about the fees? We touched on this. We're figuring out distribution. You'll get more information later. One parent says that Walton kids aren't one-to-one. How will this be addressed? They are one-to-one this year, aren't they?
I believe they are one-to-one this year, but I will check on that to make sure, but I believe that they are. Mm-hmm.
All right. How will PE continue?
That's an interesting idea. I saw something on the news tonight where somebody was leading an exercise class. Well, I wouldn't call it a class, just an exercise opportunity in Italy, where they are all homebound at this time, and you saw someone leading it, and then out on all of the verandas or porches in the neighborhood, people were doing jumping jacks. I don't know what physical education will look like. I really have no idea. So I hope our staff can be very creative in putting that together and let us know. It might be keeping a personal log of what you're doing, like if you walk for 15 minutes or you walk for 30 minutes or whatever. We don't have a lot of options in our community right now with the normal group places closed. So I think they'll have to be creative in what that's going to look like.
So the breakfast and lunches will be like the summer meal program. I think it'll be a little different. I think we're thinking about maybe doing one pickup for both. Is that right?
Correct, so that parents do not have to get out twice to pick up meals. So that was the last I heard, was that it was going to be
and again,
one pickup for breakfast and lunch. So it'll be lunch and breakfast the next day.
And again, we'll get more information out about that either today or sometime this weekend. I think, again, we have a parent with a daughter who has physical therapy through Cooper. Will her therapy be canceled? It's the same situation as the speech therapy. Is that right?
Again, it will work the same as speech. It's a required thing, and it's in her IEP. So we will need to provide services in some way. What that's going to look like, I cannot say at this time.
Does the school plan to supply personal PPE for employees in contact with other students and people?
We will rely on our nursing staff to make those determinations.
Yeah, and we will be able to use our Chromebook or students will, for their work. And where do they send money for their elementary school yearbook? Their elementary school should be reaching out to them on that. I know. Correct. I've heard teachers are still working on them. They love their yearbooks. Okay, we talked about speech services. The AP testing, we're waiting to hear from them. It looks like some people have answered you as well, so thank you. Driver's ed, we're doing a virtual meeting, and it's in June, which is after the end of the current guidance. So we're just going to have the virtual meeting and see how things progress. Even if a student has a Chromebook, can they have the option of having a paper packet as well? If we parents are supposed to be helping students out, we may need paper packets to understand what is going on. Also, a teacher syllabus for the class our child was in to help us determine what points we as parents need to help them hit.
I think that's a great suggestion, and I think we certainly can work on that. So,
okay. For Summit Learning students, can their content assessments be approved at home?
Yes, we will need to do something to change how we are or have been doing that. And again, the teachers will be back on Monday, and I'm sure that they will have those conversations and decide how best to move forward.
And then what about auto class?
Auto class would be another CTE class that you kind of can't do online. So there would need to be some decisions made there about how and how to proceed and how to move forward.
For IEP meetings that are done online, how will we get the signatures? I've heard people talk about that some lately.
Again, that's a question that we don't have an answer to, except that it's possible that the video recording would stand as a signature, if you will, an electronic signature. So there may be an electronic way to sign, or it may be we mail out the forms and have people sign them and mail them back. I mean, there are different ways that we might need to handle that.
Any parent meetings that were scheduled for next week, are those canceled?
I would say hold on, because we've had some conversation with staff already that had meetings scheduled, and asked them to reach out and see if they could be done virtually like we are doing now, with a variety of people involved in those virtual meetings. So just hold it on your calendar for now.
And we've had this question a lot. We had it in the last one. Spring sports, will they get their pay-to-play fees refunded?
Yes, pay-to-play fees will be refunded.
Someone has concerns about trying to help a child with special needs navigate online when the parent is currently working. We're taking that into consideration in our plans.
Yes.
Oh, someone missed about auto. They will have to probably do that in person. Is that right?
Well, that's my assumption. Having never worked on an automobile myself, other than checking the oil and changing a tire one time in my entire life, I would say I'm not the best resource to be able to answer that question. Our two auto teachers are amazing, and I'm sure that they've already been thinking about what their plan is for students to be able to meet the competencies. So I'm going to leave it up to their very expert hands to decide what that's going to look like for students.
Well, I had to jump a battery yesterday, so I had some help though. Will Honor Society members receive their graduation cords?
Yes, I would think so.
And then are students allowed to check out computers to continue their studies? Yes, and we're coming up with a plan to have them do that safely. Thank you to everyone who responded. I appreciate that. Will students be able to turn in 8th grade enrollment forms?
Yes, but wait, and don't bring them in next week because we won't have anybody in the building next week.
We're making a plan for lockers. Someone else asked about that. Someone's teacher is scheduled to be on maternity leave. Will the other teacher in that grade provide coverage, and how will they be notified?
Again, we will have a substitute teacher of some kind, and we want to keep the ratios down because working in an online environment is going to be different. So we wouldn't want to add another 20 or 25 kids to another teacher's classroom. So we'll be looking at staffing that in the same way that we would if they were coming into the brick and mortar building. So we'll be looking at figuring out how to do that.
And then we have a parent worried about not having a car and getting food. Again, as we said earlier, if you think this will be an issue, send us a private message, email us at info@ust373.org, or call us on Monday, and we can talk to you and try to find out a solution. If computers have, or if students have computers have student problems, if students have computer problems, how will we get them fixed? Or get a hold of IT, or will they get a new computer? How will that work? Do we know?
Well, again, we don't necessarily have a well-defined plan at this point, but these would be USD 373 devices, and we would help to support those devices. So people might have to be a little patient. We might have to just exchange devices, those kinds of things, but we will help students and families work through those issues.
Someone just left a question mark, Catherine Rodinius, so maybe type out a question. I might have missed the first part of it, so if you could just write it up again, that would be great. And then someone asked, what about first, second, third, and fourth? I can't tell what you're referring to, so if you could write it up a different question too, that would be great. Lunch pickup is planned for now to be at the curb. We really want parents to stay in cars to keep things safe. We can't stress that enough. They'll give you your food, but we need everyone to stay in their cars. Someone asked if kids will pick up where they left off next year. No, we're going to continue education. And we're going to post the plan in the description of this post after we get done with our live. Teachers should be reaching out next week. We've covered that. Someone asked about the high school yearbook. I'm guessing Mrs. Montano is working on that. Yep, stay in your cars for lunch. And we've talked about sending money for auto class or for yearbook. To reload the comments, sorry guys. Yes, and pick up the food at your child's school unless you go to Chisholm, then go to the closest school, which would be Slate Creek. If they don't need lunches, will they be refunded?
This is being funded by the federal government under the summer food program. So there is no charge for this program for students to participate. So whatever balances are currently in a student's account will be refunded, just like they would be at the end of the year.
All right, we had another question about getting items back. We are working on a plan. Is there more? Bryna Simons, can you clarify your question? I don't think I'm quite understanding it. That'd be great. Thank you. We've got a lot of suggestions and positive comments. What about children enrolled in EMT class that goes through Hutchinson Community College? It's a hands-on college class.
We're, again, working with HCC for students to be able to complete classes that they're currently in. You're correct, a lot of those kinds of classes have clinicals and those kinds of things that are a part of the class, and that would have to be continued, and that would be up to HCC to make those determinations for how they were going to move forward with those students.
All right, we've covered this, but just to kind of reiterate, because I think there's a lot of parents thinking this, how will parents that work first and third be able to get an 8-hour course and when they are in college as well? Again, it's not a usual 8-hour day.
No, students will not be online that long. It's going to be a very shortened experience for students. There's no way that we could do school hour for hour, minute for minute in the same way in a home environment online that we can do in a school building with teachers there to work with kids all the time. So it's gonna be very different, and the time requirement for parents and for students will be different also.
Will an Amazon Fire, I think, tablet work with online classes, or do they have to use the Chromebook? It's more of a technical question.
I can't answer that. I don't know. I don't have a Fire myself, so I don't know what's available on there. Most things will be offered through an internet program such as Seesaw. I don't know if Seesaw works on a Fire, and Google or Chrome. So if Chrome is on there, then it might work. So I think that's a possibility if a parent wanted to do that, or have their child use their own home computer instead of a district provided device.
And someone asked, why not just pass everyone? We have to still follow guidelines, right?
Right. Well, the state didn't give us that option. Just go ahead and pass everyone. So we are expected to provide continuous learning, and so that is what we've been tasked to do, and that's what we are setting about to do.
Again, teachers will be in contact next week. We're hoping to start the online classes by March 30th. The breakfast and lunch program will be free. We've gotten that question a lot. For children 18 and under. We are working on a plan for special education. We had another question like that. AP still has to give us its guidance about where the tests will take place. What about band and orchestra? Will they have online courses? Like I saw Garth Brooks did a whole concert online, so maybe they can do their practice online. I don't know.
I think that they could, and I think that there would be ways for the music teachers to work with students in a virtual environment like we are. So I think that there will be some things that will happen there. It will be different than it has been.
All right. What about enrollment fees and computer charges? Those.
It's 7 o'clock.
Oh.
Sorry, that's my computer. What about enrollment fees and what?
Computer charges.
For
yeah, can you be a little bit more specific? They should have already paid those, right?
right,
Yeah.
right. Whatever fees were due at the beginning of the year are still due, and there will not be additional fees at this time unless a device again is broken, lost, stolen, whatever our normal charges are for those types of things that might happen.
We just had someone say high school. Could you clarify what your question is? We don't get to see the threads, the comments that you would. So it might make sense in the thread, but we don't get to see all that. So what time would meals need to be picked up? I believe it's 9 to 10 or 8 to 9. Why don't we just check? We'll email that out specifically. I know they're still working on determining that. Will assignments be graded online?
Yes.
All right. Oh, Robin Montano posted, and she said that the full NHS yearbook is complete, minus the edits, but the yearbook staff will be discussing on how to complete or downsize the spring insert that is usually paired with the book. This covers spring break and so on. So thank you.
Way to go, Robin, and staff.
And staff. Can we write out answers to some of these questions and leave them on the website? We actually are doing that. We did that for the last session. You can find them in the FAQs on our coronavirus page, and we will be doing that for these as well. It does take a little bit of time, as I'm sure you understand, because an hour's worth of questions takes a lot of typing. So if you and we can put that link in the description as well. So that's a good question. And then we've covered this. If you have students that go to different schools, you can pick up the lunches at one location.
I did see something just
breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news on the AP exams. Thank you, Kathleen Bergman, for sending us this information.
Thank you.
You'll need to, sorry, I need to get to the part where she actually has the information. So you'll take the test at home online. It will be shortened, only 45 minutes long. It is a free response question, which is APEs for an essay question, so no multiple choice. You'll have a choice of 2 dates to take the exam. One sooner if you don't want to forget what you learned, and one later if you want more time to prepare. For information about these 2 dates and more information on the question, on what the question might look like, will be released on April 3rd. More information for teachers and students will be coming out to help us get you ready. So that is from Ms. Bergman. So thank you very much, Kathlena, for sending that our direction.
Someone asked, can you clarify what you mean by the school section being posted, and if elementary students get posted as well? Can you just clarify a little bit? Thank you. Well, grades of assignments be done at home. Okay, will grades for assignments done at home count towards end of the year grades?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, whatever the teacher is grading and puts a grade in, that would count. So, yes.
All right, and they answered your other question. Now I have to reload the comments. Thanks for your patience. Oh, someone says USD 373 is the place to be. Look at that.
Yes, it is.
What time will lunch pickups? You'll get an email this week, tonight, or this weekend, clarifying that. A lot of people are saying great job. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Someone was wondering if there's a plan being made for pre-K, not, pre through kindergarten, as well as kindergarten through 12th. So there is a plan being made for pre-K, isn't there?
Yes. I would say that that is unique, and actually our 0 to age 5 program, which would include pre-K, but also includes our infant toddler. Those educators will get together and begin putting that together and what that's going to look like for our families and how they can support our families with very young children. Again, they're an amazing group of people, and I know that they will come up with some absolutely wonderful things to help families.
Is there an opportunity for substitute teachers to be helpful? If so, I'm interested in helping whatever capacity I can, which is great.
Yay!
So yes, there will be, and we'll be in contact. And yep, we are going to write out the questions. It does take time. It's a lot of writing. So it may be a couple days. Probably early next week would be my guess, because I may get some sleep tonight, actually. So that's exciting. Oh, okay. For elementary laptops, we're still figuring out the plan to get that to them. We'll have more information shortly. Thanks, Sean, for posting some of the time guidelines given out. So that should answer a lot of those questions. And yep, there will be refunds for spring pay to play. So will the high school teacher message the parents about the homework? What happens if their student doesn't have a computer or laptop? Everybody has a laptop. We're 1-to-1. And they will be in contact, the teachers. Someone says, thank you, teachers, which I would agree with.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Brittany Birch wanted to share that the CMS yearbook is being finalized, and students will get those hopefully in May. So
thank you, Brittany.
Yeah. They won an award last year for it's an award-winning yearbook. All right, I have to, let me see if they're loaded on here. We're still figuring out the plans for special education. So get back to you on that, Gail. And our goal is still to recognize the seniors in some way. And we will have, we do send phone calls out to parents for different things. And we can't tell who doesn't have email, so we work around that generally. All right, I think we got that question. I think we might have covered all of the questions. Let me reload this one. And if we didn't get to your questions, the best way to make sure they're answered, because we got so many comments on this thread that it's hard for me to tell which ones are new and which ones are covered. So just Facebook message us or email us at info@usd373.org to make sure that they get covered. Because again, I don't want to miss any of your questions. We want to make sure we get those all answered. And yep, we're coming up with a plan for belongings from school. Someone asked if there's a number to call for questions. Yep, now it's the weekend, so there won't be many people here, but you can start with me actually. 316-284-6222. And yes, I didn't just have to look at my phone number to make sure I had it right. And then I'll get you in the right spot. I think we got all the questions. So it's been a little over an hour. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to call, email, send us a message. And again, thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Dr. Hamm, for being here. And thanks to everybody who's been working hard this week, and to all the teachers that will be working hard next week. So,
well, and I do want to say that it's not just that they will be working hard, because I know a number of teachers who have already been investing time over the last several days since this announcement was made, and spending time thinking about this and processing it and working with their colleagues and watching other colleagues from other districts, what they are doing, so that they can help meet the needs of our students moving forward. So kudos to our teaching staff that are already really doing a lot to make this as workable as possible. And also thank you to Sam and to others who have been working hard to get information out to people and continue to provide answers that our community needs as we work through this together. It's certainly not anything that any of us thought about a week ago, but I really appreciate all the support that we've received and all of the work that's already gone into this, and again, will continue next week. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. And we hope to have another one of these once we have more information. So keep your eye out for that. We'll put that on Facebook. We'll email you and text you again. And thanks again for watching. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Wash your hands.